Well, welcome to our mentor interview. So we're recording this so that students or new hires can kind of see what the life is like in a seasoned kinesiotherapist and kind of maybe different paths that we all have taken. So
seasoned, does that mean old?
No, I don't think I'm old, but I've been here for 17 years, so I feel seasoned, you know, little seasoning there. So was there anything that happened that made you kind of go towards this career choice?
Anything that happens in course career choice. Well, you know, like most 18, 19-year-old kids, you're in college, you have a major, you think that's what you want to do, and you're going along and things are fine, and then you just kind of wander a little bit and you think, yeah, maybe I don't want to quite do that. Maybe I want to do something different. And for me, it was just simply seeing the Kinesiotherapy Center at the University of Toledo, and because I had a bunch of classes in the health and human performance, and I had some teachers that also were involved in it, and they kind of directed me to that. And I was looking at changing my major after my freshman year, and decided to drive up back to school before school started, and Len Greninger, Dr. Greninger at Toledo, who had a program for many, many years. I met with him, and next thing you know, I'm a kinesiotherapy major. And at that time, that also meant you then became a physical education major, because at that time, because it was in the School of Education, so you had to do your 4 years of classes, plus your student teaching, plus your clinical internship. So it was really kind of a thing that went from a quarter system of needing 190 credit hours to graduate to compiling 260 and before you get out of there. But it turned out well. And then from there, I just happened to continue on and go to as I'm in my last semester of undergraduate. I'm walking down the hall one day, and the head of the department yells at me, come over and talk to him. And we have a graduate assistantship open next year. It's the Kinesiotherapy Center. All you have to do is see patients for 20 hours a week, and we'll pay for your schooling, and we'll give you a stipend. Do you have any other plans, Tom? No? Okay. Well, if you want it. Do I have to take a test or anything? No, just go.
Wow. So, you kind of fell into that's beautiful.
One thing kind of always leads to another.
Right.
So, yeah. Then while I'm there, so then I have to do a master's thesis, and Dr. Greninger's really pushing me towards doing something that involved the human subject study, the actual collection of data and all that. So at the time, we were doing a lot with the Ohio Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation, and a gal there, a nurse, wanted more objective data when somebody go back to work, and was asking about lift tests and functional capacity. So somebody threw a book at me and said, you need to learn this. And then I ended up doing a study where I took people and I trained them to and had them measure their lifting capacity and with a box with weights, and then out with something that was called the Cybex lift test at the time, which was an isokinetic lifting machine with the bar, and then we ran a regression analysis, so we compared the data, and we found that one was very predictive of the other, and that kind of led, me to going to work for Dr. Greninger at the time. He was starting a rehab center in Toledo and building a pool. We did a lot of pool therapy, and next thing you know, so I'm doing that, and then California calls because they heard I had done lifting tests, and Dan Jones, Dr. Jones, he was another kinesiotherapist, had come out here and started this facility for a doctor, and they offered me a job. I said no, and then 2 years later they came back because Dr. Robertson had taken the job. And this time I said yes, I'll come out for 2 years. So I left Ohio in '91, and here I am 2
years later.
32 years later, still here.
That is
my
amazing.
wife constantly reminds me that.
Right, we're going back. No, we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so neat. Wow. So that is quite a different path than some people have taken, where they just go to school and then one job. You kind of made your way all the way through. That's great to hear.
Well, yeah. It's things get thrown at you, and you just, if you're interested in it, do it. That's one of the things I do tell students all the time is always try something different. If there's a skill that you're interested in and it's a course or two and you can get a certification in, do it. I don't know if you're going to use it. You may, but you won't know until you try.
Until you try it. Yeah.
In my lifetime, I've watched, I remember back in the 80s and especially in the 80s, early 90s with the physical therapy profession was expanding rapidly. But one of the things they did was anything that needed to be done, they grabbed. Okay. And you know, so wound care, we can do that. You know, hand care, we can do that. You know, they just kept grabbing things, and that's kind of a you know, I encourage people here. This is what we do, especially kinesiotherapy, is just a starting point, and after that, you're not going to pick up a lot of newspapers and see ads for kinesiоtherapists, but you will see ads for injury prevention specialists and things like that. I had a conversation already this morning at 7:30 with somebody from Amazon who's asking me questions because, you know, maybe I shouldn't mention the company name, but they were just curious about how different things that they can do for injuries. And this was a lower level employee. I'm like, well, you're going to have to go through your upper management, but you know, you're a long way. But I'll certainly sit down and talk to you and lay out a framework for you about what ergonomics is and so forth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that. So if you see something interesting, just go grab it, just go try it, because maybe that's your niche and you never would have known if you hadn't just kind of stepped out.
Yeah, I got to Bakersfield, and so I'm in my late 20s. I'm director of something called the California Work Diagnostics Center now, and because I'm taking over for Dr. Robertson and before that Dr. Jones, and they were, you know, a little bit more seasoned, as you were. He is like 20 years older than me. And all of a sudden I'm put in this job and working with physical therapists and occupational therapists and running a pool program and doing functional capacity evaluations and isokinetic evaluations. And at that time, post-offer employment testing or pre-placement functional capacity testing or physical capacity evaluations, whatever you want to call them, was really kind of getting going here in Bakersfield. We had some very large employers that were really interested in ways to reduce their injuries and hire fit people. So I kind of went from, okay, we're doing these mostly on individuals going back to work, and 32 years later, 90% of what I do is on pre-hires. It's on people who are going to start a job, and it's because it's direct remuneration from companies versus having to deal with insurers, and it's because we just had, you know, basically it was one company started doing Bakersfield, a bunch of others started doing it, and you just kind of snowball from there. It really is, as you go through career, you see things snowball, and you end up doing pre-placement testing for 32 years. Which, if you asked me in 1988 or 87 or 86, when, you know, 87 when I first got certified, I wouldn't even know what that was. So, but now I'm dating myself. So.
No one cares about the dates. You're doing great.
No. So that's what it is. Another example would be ergonomics. When I got out here in Bakersfield, I hadn't really done much ergonomics per se. So now I have this background doing functional capacity. I have this background clock rehab, a background in doing orthopedic rehab and work fitness, conditioning, work harding, whatever you want to call it. And so now all of a sudden a company approaches, well, we want you to come out and look at our jobs that we're having injuries. Can you come and see what's causing this? I'm like, okay, so we need to do an ergonomic evaluation of ergonomics. So, okay, so you know, start doing some research, take a few classes, and next thing I know, I'm on job sites. And there, it's a trucking company that has 40 people sitting at dummy terminals all day, and they wanted us to do a computer workstation. So we started doing that. And now the name of my company is Functional Ergonomics, Functional Capacity Ergonomics, and that I was able to start my own company just because after 15 years of working with somebody else, there was an opportunity in which the individuals that I had worked for were no longer going to be doing this anymore, and the clients came to me and asked me to start the company. So
wow.
It's like I said, you wake up in the morning, you don't know where you're gonna what's gonna go. That's like tell kids, just take it easy.
So you're the owner of the company. So what would you tell maybe a student? Like, would they have to do some type of special thing to maybe be hired by you?
Actually, not really. I would tell students this, that they get the best background in exercise phys and biomechanics and any ergonomics along the way, you know, things like that. It's all cross applicable. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with all that. If you can break down movement and understand how movement works, how it works at the musculoskeletal system level, the nervous system, how it works at the cardiovascular level, you can do what we do. It's just applying what you may have thought about in, let's say, working with athletes to working in the workplace. So when I'm talking about doing post-offer functional capacity testing or post-offer employment testing, what we're doing is we're going on a job site for a company and we're seeing what the people do. And we go, okay, they have to bend. Okay, they have to stand. Okay, they have to lift this much from this height to this height. How often do they have to do that? And then we're taking that information and we're bringing it back here. We're putting a test together, a controlled environment, to see if they match. I always tell people, my job is to determine whether or not their physical abilities, they're able to safely perform the physical demands required of the job tasks. The company decides the job task, we measure the physical abilities. And even when we're done, I always tell people, ask if I pass a fail, I said, you know what? We're going to send the information to the company. They do all the hiring decisions. We are, because there's tons of other factors that have to go into place, you know, accommodations, modifications, other legal considerations, but that's basically our job. So if you look at it that way, it's no different than saying, okay, you're going to try out for this sport. What am I looking for? I'm looking for, if I'm looking for a football player that, you know, in this position, I'm looking for somebody that has this much strength and this much speed. So we're just applying those same principles to the workplace, which makes it so different than a traditional medical examination, where they're looking at things from a disease or illness type scope. Going to the doctor's office, they want to know what type of, you know, this person free of disease, illness, or injury. They're not really looking at, can they do the job? And that's, since 1992 with the ADA, that's, you have to really, it's all about whether or not they can do the job. It really doesn't matter. So it really is.
You do a lot of on-the-job training with somebody, like a new hire. Yeah, like you have all this information from school, it's all in your mind. How do you put that into practice? This is exactly how. Yeah,
most of it's on the job training, but as you know, while you're in school, get as much as you can working in the field. I don't care if it's at a gymnasium as a personal trainer. Actually, some of the best things to do for individuals is actually work a physical demanding job. I worked at UPS when I was in college, and I lifted boxes. That's what I did for 4 hours a day. I lifted 1,172 boxes an hour. I had to take them off of the trailers, would come up off the interstate, Ohio. Unloaders would put them on a conveyor belt to go up to, I was in the sort aisle, which means I had to grab a box, look at the label, know by zip code where it went to the 16 color-coded belts behind me, and place it on there. Wow. So like the first 2 weeks of the job was just measure, it was in a classroom measuring zip codes. And that's what you did. Place and turn. There's nothing wrong with that. It gives you such a great background later when you're dealing with people to say, I've done that. I've done that. So my thing to kids is do something, get a job, do something. I don't care. It could be in the field, or if you want to be an industrial, go. You think you're gonna be working in occupational health and medicine? It doesn't. It helps you get out there and work another job. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like a recommendation for a young kinesiotherapist would be try something out, see if you like it, see if that's a good niche for you. Yeah. It sounds like any certifications you're thinking about as after you already graduated, anything that kind of sparks your interest will be kind of something to go for.
Sparks your interest, and what is the need in the community? Where are you planning to live? What are the jobs? Talk to owners of various physical therapy clinics or doctors or gymnasiums or whatever. What do they feel they need added to their practices or businesses, or, you know, wellness companies, etc. There's a lot of companies out there right now that hire people and they put them in workplaces. So John Cabans has an excellent company of that. There are other companies that do the same thing. They hire injury prevention specialists. They put them in there. lots of our using athletic trainers, kinesiotherapists are actually perfect for that job, and we need to get more of our people pushed into those type of situations that want to go into that. So my advice to young people is keep an open mind, but always look for opportunities. My whole career was just opportunity. I'd say I was in the right place at the right time. I was in the right place at the right time when I was at the Kinesiotherapy Center at the University of Toledo, and the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation came to us. I was at the right place at the right time. When I was finishing up my master's degree, Dr. Greninger was starting that clinic. I was in the right place at the right time. People in California heard about my research through other kinesiotherapists. Dan Jones had previously held a position, but I was also always looking for that opportunity. There was an opportunity. I said, I'll take that.
Right, you're very proactive and looking forward, not waiting for it to come at your lap, but going out there and trying to find. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when the person from the BVR said, "Hey, what can you guys do?" There was 3 of us that graduate assistants at the time. I said they didn't really interest them. I said, "I'll do that. That's fine." It was a little bit more work as far as that study to get my master's degree than I thought it would be, but you know, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did a human subject study because later on in life I can read a lot of research now, and I know I could say where the flaws are because I had to defend something like that myself. And the more you do things like that, where you defend your own ideas, the better off you'll be. So challenge yourself. You know, I would say to young people, and don't be afraid to answer those questions. What is my biggest thing right now? Still, people ask me, what is a kinesiotherapist? I still have my smart aleck friends that would call me and say, "Hey, I hurt my kinesio," right? So used to give out the old textbook definitions from our association, what a kinesiotherapist is, and now as you get older, you realize you just need an elevator definition. What can you explain to somebody in a 30-second conversation in the elevator about what you do?
So people what would that be if somebody came up to you and goes, "What is a kinesiotherapist?" What would you say to them, Tom? How would you?
I say we are movement specialists that help people return their function, and it doesn't matter whether it's activities of daily living, it's work, it's sports, it's leisure. We are movement specialists, and we fill in that gap, that gap that exists between the very some of us work in acute rehab, but there's a huge gap between there and here. I'm telling you right now, one of the big opportunities that I'm not in, but I do see, is post-rehab fitness. Because the way our health system is set up, we have individuals who are done with their physical therapy because frankly, their doctors weren't interested in it, or they were put in a physical therapy program, would give it 12 visits and 10 of them were wasted, or they had great physical therapy, but that's all they're going to get right now. And so where do they seek for help? At the gym, from a personal trainer. And that's a great opportunity where we need to be stepping in and going to some of these rehab centers to go, you know what, you need to fill the gap in, and here's how we can help do it. Going to physicians, you need to fill the gap in, here's how we can help do it. So that's a tremendous opportunity that exists right now that I think that we're uniquely equipped to fill.
Yeah, man, hearing you talk just gets me so fired up. I love it. I love it.
Well, you got me in the morning.
That helps too. That helps too. Okay, I have just a couple of questions that I'm going to ask all the mentors with a little bit of some like personal traits here. So, what is one habit you do daily?
Wow. Well, there's actually 2. Okay. And the first one is exercise. I do that. I try and get something in daily. It's not always the formal gym workout, which I try and get 3 or 4 days a week. Sometimes it's 15 minutes here in my office or out on the floor. Sometimes it's with a patient. We'll have somebody like a police officer here doing a work conditioning program, and I'll say, for the next 15 minutes, we're going to do 15. We're going to do 15 push-ups, 15 squats, 15 curls, 15 these, and I'll just get down and do it with them. And so that's one habit. The other habit is I get up and I always read the newspaper or the news of the day. I want to know what's going on in the community. I check to see what is going on, for questions that I may be asked. So those are two things, basically. I wish I could say I have more wisdom on that, but that's, that is. I can tell you the worst thing I do every day, and that's spend too much time on my phone.
On the phone,
That's probably the worst habit we all have.
Probably very true. Here's a harder one. Would you say that there are 3 characteristic traits that your friends would use to describe you?
Ooh, my friends. I know I get some harsh friends, I can tell you. With characteristic traits. Well, I'm large. Okay. There's Tom, Tom the big guy. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds. I'm a big person. I've also tend to be outgoing, and that. Probably the one thing that the people that know me the most, they would probably say I'm loyal and on time. I'm always, I value friendship, and I have this. You have these core friendships you form over 30, 40 years, and I always try and make time for that, and I always try and be really on time when we do things and so forth. So that's about it.
I like that.
There might be other things.
Those are good.
We're about to find out.
So the next one says, if you had an important assignment, like something's coming up, right? It's in the future. How do you approach that?
Okay. So how do you not procrastinate? Because we all do that. There's no greater motivator than a deadline.
Right.
I've tried every piece of technology there are, as far as keeping track of my time and my projects, whether it's my iPad or my laptop or my phone and OneNote, and I've tried it all, but I have had the paper everywhere.
And those are your organizational tools, writing things down.
The daily list would be on one. Other ones, I just make little framework notes until I'm ready to actually sit down and put things together. I might be like driving my car and think, oh, I need to say this in this presentation that's coming up in October, and because this could be applicable or pithy or whatever I want to just. I'll get home and I'll pick up a pad and boom, 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 and try and do that. So that's probably how I approach it. And I always think of this. What does the person on the other end want to see from me first? Okay. Right. It's not what do I need to tell them. It's what do they want? What do they need to hear?
I like that.
A lot of times what I want to say and what they need to hear aren't the same thing. So it's like when I do an ergonomic evaluation, I'll show up and somebody will have a list of items that they tell me that they want. I nod and I smile and I start talking to my chant and I divert the conversation, because I always said when I do an ergonomic evaluation with somebody at their office workstation, my job is not to give them what they want. My job is to get them to know what they need. And teach them. So
I like that. I like that. Okay, only 2 more. You're doing great. Okay, so the second to last. What have you learned from maybe some mistakes on the job?
Pardon me? Mistakes?
What have you learned from maybe some mistakes on the job?
Wow. Complacency. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not keeping in contact with a client on a regular basis, not keeping in contact with a colleague on a regular basis, or just doing something the same way, because I've always done it that way. Not sitting down every once in a while and saying, okay, what can we do to make this better or more efficient? Okay.
Or like, why are we doing it this way? Is there an easier way to do this kind of task? Yeah.
In fact, that's one of my things I talk about ergonomics. I always tell people you have to avoid because we've always done it this way. and so, so I have to apply that to myself as well.
I like that. I like that. And then the last one is, how do you feel about taking no for an answer?
I don't like it at all. I don't like to be told no, but she got it. how do I like it? I don't like it, but I always try to understand why are they telling me no, and what can I do to change their mind in the future if it can be changed.
Oh, I like that.
We're a big world of a lot of personalities, and sometimes you just have to accept that what you're selling or what you're saying they don't want to hear, and there may be nothing you can do about that. And that's life. That's you don't know what they're facing. Like when I'm dealing with an employer client, I have one job. My job isn't to give them the best employees or make their employees safe or all that. My job is to make that person look good to their boss and to meet their needs. And so that's all you can do. And so you do the best you can. And it took me a long time to get there, to be able to let things go. But I'm probably 90% there because the one thing the pandemic taught me, there was lots of things I can't control in life anymore. I'm Tom Traut, Traut at FengShuiErgonomics.com. My business name is Feng Shui Ergonomics. I'm located in Bakersfield, California. Anybody's free to call me, contact me, send me an email anytime. Okay.